Hello there. My name is Claire Rumor, and I'm a co-director and senior faculty member at the Shakti Shiva Academy, which is an online conscious sexuality school. I'm also a counselor and a coach and a sex educator. My focuses are on sexuality, gender, and identity, and the intersections of sexuality and spirituality. Those are my passion and those are my domain. And so it's wonderful to be here with you right now. And today, what I'm interested in talking about is a different sort of feminine frequency. It's very easy for us to talk about the light and be in the light and embrace the light. But an area I'm particularly interested in personally, as well as professionally, is the feminine frequency of the darkness, specifically the dark goddess. And so I've titled my call today in this talk with you, Being with the Dark Goddess, when the dark goddess calls us. How do we heed that? And I'm intending that this talk be a very simple introduction into a modality called sexual shadow integration work. And part of what makes sexual shadow integration work so powerful is that it's a means to bring together the light and the dark, that which we know about ourselves and that which is hidden in the background. And so truly the dark goddess represents that which is hidden or unknown or unfamiliar inside of us. So to start acquainting you with the dark goddess, take a moment to settle in and feel free to close your eyes and feel yourself seated wherever you are, feeling all parts of your body touching something, whether that's feet on the floor, back against a chair, noticing your breath. And tune into the frequency of your light, because the light is that which is out in front, that which illuminates and reflects from you. Think of it as the light side of the moon when the moon is full. That's easy enough to touch in with. But now bring your awareness to your back side, to this dark side of you, the dark side of the moon. And this is where the dark goddess resides. The dark goddess being she who I think I'm not. She who I think I'm not. And it's this dark side of the moon, this dark side of us, this part of us hidden behind the scenes and in the shadow, where so much of our power and so much of our frequency is residing. And it can be really easy to forget that, because here we are so much in front and relating this way and in the light and sharing our joy and sharing our emanations of love, peace, and happiness, of sensuality, of well-being and healing, that which the feminine brings. But that's not all that we are. So I'll speak more to that in just a moment. I want to introduce you briefly to this woman here. Her name was Shakti Milan, and she was my mentor for many, many years. She was the creator of the school that I'm now co-director at, the Shakti Shiva Academy. And what I learned from her and what I saw her truly embody was how to embody and express the light side, and how to equally own and have relationship with and express, when needed and as necessary, the dark side, the darkness, because that is also a truthful part of who we are, especially as women and especially as human beings on the planet right now. So you're probably familiar with this notion of duality, and that we live inside of duality. We live inside of the dance of opposites, what we could call polarities. And the law of duality, the law of polarity, what it says is that everything will eventually and always become its opposite. This is that dance between the yin and the yang, between the day and the night, between the seasons of winter and summer, where we move between the extremes of the poles. And it's important for us to remember that, because inherent inside of living in duality and expressing polarity is having attractions, things that we prefer, things that are easier for us to relate to, and then having repulsions, having things that we push away to the back, that we want nothing to do with, and that we absolutely refuse to identify with or as, because we discern that that is so horrific, it can't possibly be a part of who I am. But one thing that Shakti Milan, my mentor, really taught as part of her legacy was that we are comprised of the totality. We are the totality of everything. We are all that is. And so, if that's so, then we are not just the light. We are not just the things that we find ourselves drawn to, the things that are easy to love or easy to be in the presence of. But we are also everything that we shove into the shadow, everything that we judge as not light, basically. And so there comes a time when what we are focused on begins to become its opposite. And that's what I call when the dark goddess calls us. When the dark goddess comes and taps us on the shoulder and lets us know it's time to take a trip to the dark side of the moon. It's time to take our spotlight there, our spotlight of consciousness, and go see exactly what is there, exactly what comprises us, what our unconscious patterns are, and who we think we're not. So let's talk about this attraction and repulsion, otherwise known as desires and fears. And this is a very big and important part of sexual shadow integration work, because inside of this work, we're looking at what's residing in the unconscious. And Jung referred to the unconscious as that which we have not yet owned about ourselves, that which we've put into the basement, that which we dislike or have disowned about us, the parts of ourselves that we don't have relationship with. And in order to become integrated, we absolutely must have relationship with these parts. And before we can have hope for healthy relationships, conscious sexuality, or even self-love, we need to have relationship with these parts of ourselves. And anytime we have desire, anytime we have an attraction, the opposite of that is always present, which is fear. So one thing to think about when you contemplate your desires, whether these are desires, goals that you have moving forward in your life, or whether they are attractions to people, places, things, there's always a fear that's right there also. But because the desire, because the attraction is so attractive, the fear gets pushed away. But part of our reclaiming of power, of our personal power, is truly noticing that when we have desire, we also have fear. And the fear is valid. And the emotions that are there with the fear are also valid. And there's so much to say about that in terms of how to reclaim the fears and how to turn towards the fears, ways to stay in the body, ways to self-regulate as we allow those big energies to come through us. And today I just want to whet your appetite about those particular features and feats of self. I want to remind you that you have this dark goddess part of you that is not only beautiful, but she's powerful because she knows how to place boundaries. She knows where the limits are. She knows how to direct that intense energy and how to feel it. And it's very important that we as women and we as leaders are touched in with those capabilities and very much with those parts of ourselves. So again, in sexual shadow integration work, what we're looking at are the places where we have desires and fears, attractions and repulsions, because there's a lot of information there for us. There's a lot of deep insight about who we are that's held inside of our desires. And it can be easy to not even notice that because so much about desire is moving towards it that we don't take the time to peek inside it, to see what exactly is motivating my attraction to that person, that place, that thing, that outcome. But every time there's an unconscious pattern that's trying to get our attention. And equally, when we're pushing something away, whether it's pushing away an experience, pushing away a person, pushing away an emotion, whatever we're pushing away, whatever we're repulsed by, even if it on the surface can be deemed one of the most heinous things from the human perspective, there's still very, very, very much information about ourselves to look at and things to learn and know and unpack. And as we face or turn towards those tigers that we feel are chasing us, or turn towards those, whatever it is that we're moving towards, when we take the time to see, well, what's there? And it's not the conscious or rational mind that's going to be able to show us. It very much comes from turning inward and allowing an organic knowing to bring this to our attention. And sometimes that does require us reliving or revisiting memories of painful experiences. And it's not always easy, but it's important to absolutely know that the dark goddess is our ally, and that the dark goddess isn't actually outside of us. She's not just an archetype, or not just an other. She's very much an essence of us, a part of ourself we can call upon. Know her, but in whom resides some of the most potent, extremely enigmatic piece of our essence. And a piece I also want to name while I'm with you is this notion of shifting from being an object of desire, particularly as it relates to sexuality, to being a subject of desire. So this is a very new notion for a lot of us because we're so accustomed to objectifying things outside of ourselves as something that we want, something tangible. So we objectify, or we ourselves are objectified. So there's very much this moving towards and this clinging. But there's a whole other way to be with desire that puts us back in the center. And this is the essence of integration work, of sexual shadow integration work, bringing things out of the shadow and back into wholeness and totality, is we move to being the subject of desire. We move to being the witness. So, for example, when I am the subject of my desire, I might notice an attraction towards someone, or notice an attraction towards an outcome or a material item. But instead of placing my identity fixated on that outside object, there's a way to flip the script, if you will, and to allow the energy of desire to move vertically. instead of moving horizontally outward and after, or outward and towards. And when we cultivate the ability to flip that script and be the subject of desire, to be she who desires, not she who needs that external object to validate who she is, or she who needs to be validated from the external to be who she is and to be valuable, but being she who desires. There's a whole other level of excitement. There's a whole other level of vitality and a whole other place of love that comes through. It's this very spondic love. It's like a fountain of love that becomes possible. Very much being in a flow instead of directing and having an agenda. There's this way of allowing energy to flow. And then the importance on the external objects, it drops away. And they may come towards us, or they may cease to be important. But we don't stop being important. We return to a place of love in ourselves. And it's inside of that place that the dark goddess and the light goddess, if you will, can coexist and become a unified whole. So again, the message of the dark goddess, as I see it, is the dark goddess is she who I think I'm not, when actually I am. I don't like to think of myself as aggressive or a steamroller. I don't like to think of myself as someone who is incompetent or ignorant or cruel. Nevertheless, if I'm honest with myself, I am absolutely every one of those things. I have moments where I am that. And when I can name that and own that and reclaim that, like, yeah, I do that, then those elements don't have to run me from the backside, don't have to come outward and be projected externally in order to get my attention, because that's what's happening so much of the time. And the dark goddess is trying to get our attention from the dark side of the moon, because we're not able to see her and we're not paying attention to her. So we very much project out onto others and we blame them. We say that person is incompetent and ignorant, or that person is a steamroller. I'm not a steamroller. But in fact, that person is a blank canvas or a mirror reflecting back to me the part I'm not owning about myself. And so when I'm able to also own this inside of my sexuality, maybe some of us from our conditioning think, I can't be that sexy, or I can't be that dominant, or I'm not one who is into non-monogamy or into monogamy. Take your pick. But we are absolutely relegating a whole part of ourselves to the background, to a disempowered place when we cut ourselves off. And so the dark goddess is to remind us that we're all of it. We're all of it. And it's okay. All of it's okay. Being human is okay. And being human is comprised of all of this. And so with that, I'll leave you with this. You are all of it. You are beautiful. It's beautiful. Whatever is happening right now. You can own it, turn towards it, and extend it, and I love you. It's allowing that energy to flow through. I suspect you'll see a shift in your reality. That whatever was so difficult or creating so much tension in a particular relationship or causing you so much anguish, it'll calm down. It'll drop away. And it'll drop away not because it no longer exists, but because it's starting to integrate inside of you and returning you back to your wholeness and back to your totality. And so the feminine frequency that we're here celebrating, as I see it, is not only one part of a frequency band. It's not just one part of a spectrum or a few colors on the rainbow. It's actually the entire rainbow. And it's interesting to notice where we prefer. Maybe I prefer the reds, orange, and yellows, but I don't like the greens and blues so much. And investigating why that is. And then with that inquiry, the whole spectrum opens up to me. The whole spectrum of me opens up to me. And I'm that much more available to life, to others, to joy and happiness, or even fear and anguish. All of it gets to move through me. And life truly starts to become a dance. So I want to let you know about a free gift I have for you if you found this interesting or it piqued your curiosity. I have a code for a free book called the Basic Sexual Shadow Work ebook. And the code is FFF2020, and the link will be in this chat here. And so there's so much to cover about sexual shadow integration work. It's pretty broad, but I wanted to give you a little taste, a few things to contemplate, and that book is waiting for you to go enjoy and dive in. So thank you so much for joining me today, and go embrace your beautiful dark goddess also.